Hi there. Today I will start working on the deck. We'll laminate the deck.
Perhaps you remember that I was not happy about the waves in the deck. I decided to add a few strips on the top to get more material to sand into. I glue on these strips with wood glue, as this leaves almost invisible transitions when I later sand down the edges. A tight fit is necessary, so I add some pressure with rubber cords and leftovers. To improve the gaps between the strips and the wiener, I make up some thickened epoxy and mix it with mahogany sawdust. Now I can fill the gaps. I also mix up some sawdust from spruce and use this to fill other gaps between the strips. Last time you saw me make the hatch bowl. Now I can remove the masking tape from the fillets and sand down the excess filling and added extra strips. When all the big objects that are sticking up are removed, I can proceed. With big movements, I level the surface. Around the hatch, I am more careful with light strokes with the sander. Now I have removed the waviness in the front of the cockpit and reached the end of the deck. While I'm already dusty, I can as well turn the deck over and take a tour on the inside as well. I trim the hatch frame on the inside before I vacuum off the dust. After flipping the deck again, I sand off the tracks from the coarse grit with the 80 grit paper and then 120 grit paper. Before heading inside. Now I pre-wet the surface. And fill some small holes. With the rubber putty I remove the excess. As I'm not happy with the result in the front of the cockpit, I sand off more material, the same time as I remove standing fibers from the pre-wetting. Inside again, I measure out glass cloth for the deck. Cutting it out with some margin. The excess is cut off later. Now I can start the actual lamination. I spread out the epoxy on the deck. Then I try to lift the cloth in place. And try it several times. Before I can flatten it out enough. With long strokes from one direction. The rubber putty is helpful to remove the last air in the cloth and the excess epoxy. With the leftovers, I strengthen the area behind the cockpit. You might place heavy load here while entering the kayak, and in my case, the joining between the hulls will need extra strength. The day after I can clean cut the edges and remove air bubbles. I left too much wet cloth on this spot, so I had to get brutal before being able to separate the deck and the hull again. And finally I can loosen it. The second coat is added within 12 hours of curing. And the third after another 8 hours. After that the edge is strong enough to remove the excess at the deck edge. With a pair of scissors I can remove it without destroying the flange that I spent so much time on. After a week of other duties, the laminate is cured enough for sanding. This is to smoothen the surface. Removing as much excess on the top of the glass fibers as possible without reaching into the fibers. I flip the deck. To sand the edge. Now the inside. There are some clear areas where you can see through, and I fill this with sawdust. At the same time as I pre-wet the inner surface. After curing, I flip the deck over again. To use up some excess epoxy from working on the back deck. This is epoxy with a little filler in that will smoothen the surface better. Most of it will be sanded away anyway, so it will not add much opaqueness. Now I need to remove standing fibers from the pre-wetting. In the front there is not much room for machines. So it's only to do the hand labor. But I do not need to inhale the powder, as a vacuum cleaner do it for me. Heading inside, where I heat the deck before flipping it over. And pile it up. For lamination. Here I use thickened epoxy. It will smoothen out the last unevenness in the deck. And make it easier to avoid air bubbles. Not so many people will view the inside of the kayak, so it does not need to be pretty. But bubbles can cause the lamination and rot. Padding the surface also helps. Especially around bends. Working in one direction is also good, as you can remove excess cloth for further projects. The higher parts get some extra coat. With the rubber putty I remove air and transport some more epoxy to higher areas. The area behind the cockpit gets strengthened from the inside as well. Double layers of cloth here. After 4 hours of curing, I can open up the air bubbles with a sharp object. And fill them with the epoxy. And dry areas get a second coat. Nothing more is needed on the inside. This is all for this time. Thank you for watching.